a couple of us would know when we actually started playing Airsoft at the beginning with this actual company themselves. So surprisingly enough, even for me, I even will still use this company on certain rare occasions because heck, it's just a go-to gun for such a bang for your buck. But what has Echo1 stored for us basically for today's episode? Well, we don't have to say no more as we're going to be talking about the BTS MOD-2 and MOD-3. What's going on, guys, and welcome back to another episode on Airsoft Master. And today we're going to be talking about is the BTS MOD-2 and the MOD-3 from Echo1. Surprisingly enough, things did change for Echo1 on their new innovations and ideas, surprisingly enough, with these two rifles itself. Of course, the MOD-2 is going to be very familiar to you guys as more of an M4 PDW system, but this little special guy here is going to be known as its MOD-3, which is an AR-9 platform that uses MP5 magazine. We'll get to that later on. But of course, let's work our way from the front to the back on both of these rifles, with mainly the standard of seeing is, of course, yes, it's a 14mm counterclockwise threads underneath both of these flash hiders. The difference though in between is the MOD-2s, you end up with this Knight's Armament 4-prong style system. What of course you're going to have is your actual 14mm counterclockwise threading on the flash hider of an M4 in the front of the MOD-3. But if you want to change it out for any other tracer units or any other styles, that is also possible for both of these rifles. Now for the rail system itself, of course you're going to have is your typical 12 o'clock Picatinny rail segments all the way through, and of course the M-LOK systems that you're going to see on here for the 3 o'clock, 6 o'clock, and 9 o'clock positions. What's also the benefit between these actual two rail segments is you're able to have your QD sling mounts on the actual back end of the rail. Again, nice little touches, and of course the main beneficial thing that most rifles will now have to be more modern is of course this beautiful monolithic all the way through for more real estate to put your actual accessories of optics, flashlights, laser systems, whatever you need, you name it, for these type of rifles. So now that we already basically talked about the rail itself and the barrels, let's go ahead and talk about more in depth with the receiver. Now what Echo1 did with the BTS MOD-2 and the MOD-3 is they made it a full metal construction all the way through with the upper and the lower hand constructions with very familiar AR controls, being the fact that you have your safe, semi, full auto, and of course on the right hand side you'll have is your basic magazine release. And the nice part about Echo1 did is the fact that you have a functioning bolt catch to reveal your actual hop-up chamber. So again, nice little touches that we would see, and a very familiar receiver to another companies. But for actual Echo1 to see it go from being a more of a full metal and durable setup in comparison to how it was with its actual nylon polymer, again, it's a big adjustment. Now the fact that they're with the big boys like such as the G&G, KWA full metals, and heck, even maybe a SEMA company, which we'll talk about later on in the internals. Now in regards of the trademarks and also the engravings you'll see, well, to help it out with that, on the BTS MOD-2, you're able to see the engravings all the way on the left-hand side of the lower hand receiver. Of course, you're going to see is the typical brand of it, which is going to Echo1, the actual mod, which is the BTS MOD-2, and of course, what's also nice is you're able to see is your actual serial number on here. So just in case if you do have any issues, you're able to know exactly what to write for your actual warranty claims, or in general, just a more drip of saying, hey, I actually rock an Echo1. Now there is one key point feature that I wanted to actually introduce in regards of a comparison to the MOD-2 to the MOD-3. For one thing is the fact that the MOD-3 has more attention to detail of being an actual 9mm conversion with the ejection port right here. Again, it's the attention to detail that is actually pretty nice for this rifle, and as well to that, the selector is actually different. The fact that you'll still have the same actual AR controls, but more of a all the way through, the 90 selection being full auto and the 45 being semi, in comparison to the MOD-2 being a 180 selector. But Mike, you did show a photo that basically shows how the Echo1 was in the old school being full metal. But what's the comparison to it now in comparison to how it was back in the day? Well, for starters, here's a photo of a SEMA Platinum gearbox. And surprisingly enough, this is the same internal gearbox you'll get in the actual Echo1 BTS MOD-2 and the MOD-3. We'll get more in depth to the gearbox as we know firsthand is the micro trigger system that's in there, known as the SEMA Zeus trigger. The SEMA Zeus trigger is known as having a micro trigger switch, which is easy to respond to each trigger pull that you have from either semi to full auto. and the fact that it's a micro trigger switch, which also helps out with LiPo systems, meaning that you're able to use LiPo batteries with no problem in comparison to the old trigger wire harnesses that you would have back in the day. So you wouldn't want to risk it, but now it takes it like no problem. Now as well to that, the quick change spring system the actual Platinum gearbox is known for, that the fact that you can pull out your actual spring from the back end of the buffer tube makes it a lot easier to go from indoor to outdoor, or even etc. going the other way around. But internals wise, as we know that again, you'll still have your nice polymer with a full metal piston rack, and as well as a really good bore up piston head to help increase the velocity and keep a good compression out there. But it doesn't stop there. The fact that Echo1 BTS MOD rifles will have inside is an Echo1 red torque motor, which means you have a better semi-response in the fact that these have really torquey motors, and I've actually used these before in some of my custom builds. In fact, I still kept the same red torque motor in my Echo1 build for the Troy rifle I built a long time ago. But with these guys already provided in there, it does help out with actually pulling springs such as the M120s with no problem. And as well to that, you can't go even wrong that the fact that they give you a rotary style hop-up. Better than the actual old school dial system, the rotary style hop-up helps actually fine-tune it to whatever you would need to whatever weight BB you're going to use. But this is an AEG, so where would you put the battery? Surprisingly enough, it actually fits inside the buffer tube. Mainly the fact that, again, you do have a Zeus trigger MOSFET, which doesn't have to deal with any type of fuses in the back end of the buffer tube. What does that mean though in general? The fact that you're able to fit this massive 11.1 1100 milliamp LiPo battery from Echo1 itself, and of course the best part is the fact that they give you Deans. Deans is a lot better in the surface contact connection in comparison to the old school Tamiya, where you still have is the 4 prongs in between the battery to the gun itself, while this is more of a standard direct 2-point actual connection of negative to positive from the battery to the gun. Now we're on to the episode basically when we do magazine compatibility tests for this actual rifles. Now for the BTS MOD-2, we did notice that when in regards to the compatibility, it was feeding fine with the EPM ones, and as well as that including the Spectre arms that we do sell here in store. It also takes no problem with the actual high cap magazines such as the Lancer Tacticals, G&Gs, or any other type of even like the basic Echo1 high cap magazines out there. And now when we talk about magazine compatibilities onto the MOD-3. Now for starters, one thing we can say for sure is when we tested it with the basic MP5 magazines of the curved or long straights, we noticed that there would be fine in compatibility as well with any other type of magazines out there for mainly the MP5 purpose, such as the MP5 straights that's out there from Mag, the old school GMP type of actual metal mid-cap magazines, and including SEMA's own MP5 magazines, no problem. I'm using 0.20 gram BBs and 11.1 LiPo battery. And now the BTS MOD-3. So when we chrono the rifle, we noticed that on average on the consistency for the BTS MOD-2, around the 370 to 385 feet per second. And for the BTS MOD-3, around the 330 to 350 FPS. Now, whether or not if you needed changes to make it more indoor or outdoor friendly, it's easy to change it out by just removing the actual back plate of the actual buffer tube inside, and that will get you access to the actual spring guide to help change it out to whatever would make it more field legal in your area. So when you purchase either one of these rifles, basically what does come in the box? Well, for starters, is that comes with is the actual Allen key to remove the buffer tube back plate to reveal the spring guide. So if you need to change it out, they do provide that as well. And of course, for its own perspective on its rifles, it will come with the actual mid-cap magazines with them, and of course, the actual jamming rod or cleaning guide rod to help clean your inner barrels to make sure everything's clean. Now, they didn't provide any other manuals in there, but if you have any questions or concerns, please again don't be afraid to email us at info@airsoftmaster.com if you have any questions of what's going on for troubleshooting purposes on your rifle itself. So for the company for Echo1 and for the BTS MOD-2 and MOD-3, what is my overall statement? Well, for starters, I do have to give really mad props to Echo1 for improving all the way through with their internals on the gearbox itself. by swapping out the platinum gearbox in here with the MOSFET system trigger unit that makes it help with better response, and also has a better compression kit all the way through. It does help this rifle become more reliable, durable, and a lot more tenfold a more higher performance rifle that's out there, including with other companies. Now, in regards to the PDW stock, I do like this stock because, again, it's very compact, and it's what it's meant to be, a PDW system, without sacrificing that PDW space for my battery. So again, a plus side. Now, what's the best thing about this is the price itself. For the platinum money, you will basically get for it is a platinum gearbox. The BTS MOD-2 is end up going to be around the 340, while the MOD-3 is going for 350. But I digress. But what do you guys think about that? Drop a comment below, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if you're looking for products like these, go ahead and check out our airsoftmaster.com. Now for this episode, my name's Mike. I'll see you guys on the next time.
This video is brought to you by Airsoft Master.